My name is Jody King, and I am a contract specialist. I've been with PTAC since 2009, so definitely, yeah, racking up the frequent flyer miles there with numbers of days working for PTAC. And I have done this webinar a few times, and each time I do that, I learn some new tricks. So I do have a few new tips to help share with you. And the reason I redo this webinar so many times, at least a couple times a year, is it's incredibly important. It's one of your free marketing opportunities for not only the contracting officers on the federal side, but also the state contract buyers. They're taught to use dynamic small business search, but also other businesses looking for teaming partners, those prime subcontractors looking for subs. I have a lot of conversations with primes, how do I find subs? How do I find, and this is one of the very first things that I show them. So let's get started. And again, please, if you have questions, feel free. I'll see it next to the attendee name, and I want to make sure that we capture that as we go. All right. So today's topic, so what is the dynamic small business search? What is its value? How do you access your SBA profile? Then I'm going to show you two different ways through SAM and one through the general login system. And then we're going to talk about tips and tricks for updating profile. So what is the dynamic search, dynamic small business search? And it is a search screen where you can go in and pre-qualify the entities that you're looking for, all the results returned. Your search goes in, and this is all data from SAM. All of the responses are all small business. So this factor, by using the dynamic small business search versus going into SAM and doing a search, is that SAM, you're going to have all of the organizations, such as PTAC, we have our DUNS number because we do have a federal grant, and universities, not-for-profit, and other than small. So basically you're a small business or you're other than small. So the dynamic small business search is only going to return those small businesses. And this is just kind of the top part of the screen, and we will be kind of opening this up and going live and playing a little bit with some of the searches depending if we have time. But a business can come in, and you can see from this government certifications that if, say, in the case of a large contractor that's responding to a full and open solicitation, and they are looking for subcontractors to meet those small business goals, they can go in here and pre-filter if they're looking for 8A, hub zone, small business. And of course, there's another box underneath this that you're not seeing on the screen. But women-owned, small business-owned, minority-owned. So again, depending on whether they're responding to a federal or even a state, or they're looking for those WBE, those women business enterprises that are required for state for subcontracting plans. So this is the one-stop shop for looking for and being able to pre-filter. And it is nationwide. It also includes Puerto Rico and Guam. So a lot of activities there as well. So you can go in and see the businesses registered from any one of those areas. You can do a search by keywords, NAICS codes, region, partial zip code. So basically all of the data that we're going to be looking at entering today can become a search filter. And I have the link for you down at the bottom of the screen. It's a little bit hard if you just do a Google search for the DSBS. Sometimes it's a pain to find. So I recommend, if you're going to use this feature a lot, and quite honestly, you should be using this feature a lot, you should go ahead and bookmark that. All right, moving on. So let's talk about how to get to it. Because it is all data pulled from SAM, the SBA profile is linked to the SAM registration. Oh, back in early 2000s, they used to be two separate databases, and you would go in to the central contractor register and you would fill out all your information, and then you would go into the SBA profile and you would fill out all that information again. So those two systems have been merged, and you can access the Dynamic Small Business page because it is still moving over into the SBA's website, into their portal to do that SBA profile. And there's a few different ways to do it. So if you're looking at the screen now, let me walk you through this. So as you log into your SAM registration, and from the dashboard, you can click Entity Registrations and Existing Entity Registrations. We move over here, we're scroll past the useless search boxes, and you're going to click on your name in the entity list. You're going to scroll down in that bottom left-hand corner and you're going to click on Update Entity. If you already have a work in progress, then you're going to have your business information in that right-hand box. But from the screenshot, we're just based on, I don't have a work in progress, so I'm going to click Update Entity. The next screen after you click this is the system is going to ask you, where do you want to update from? And you have the drop-down list. Now, if you have to go through and do the entire registration, then you'll want to pick one of the others. But if the only reason that you're logging into SAM is to update your dynamic small business search profile, then what you can do is you can select points of contact only, which does not create a work in progress. Whereas if we had selected all sections except for the purpose of registration, and we went in and then we have to enter the DUNS information, and then we start at the very beginning and going through, which I'll have a screenshot for you on the next slide, that creates a work in progress. You can either delete a work in progress once you've gotten through to the SBA page, or you can just resubmit it, and once it's processed, then your SAM profile is then renewed a year from that date. But if you don't want to mess with that, and your only purpose of going into SAM is to get to the small business profile, then I suggest do this points of contact only. When that page pops up, because this is the page right before the SBA profile, scroll to the bottom of the page, click Save and Continue, and it will take you to here. And this is the SBA supplemental page. Now, when I said I'd show you on the next screenshot, so you can see here the list of sections under the register entity, and you can see the points of contact is right before. So if we're coming in and we are updating our SAM registration and your intent is to go to the SBA profile, then you're going to pop in here and have to complete each section and save and continue. If you do have a work in progress, when you log in, you're going to have to just save and continue a couple of pages until you can actually then click on these page headers. The list will expand, and once you can start hopping around on the different pages, then you can go directly to the SBA profile. Okay. I see I have a question from Stacy. Let me open my question box. Can I go full screen? Stacy, as far as I know, I am broadcasting the full screen. Are you guys seeing my presenter, or are you seeing the full? Let me make sure. Oh, I see what it's doing. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Thanks, Stacy. Is that better, everybody? Yeah, nobody wants to see the presenter version. That's kind of confusing. Okay, I'm sitting here talking away 2 screens. So now that should be the full screen for you without the presenter. All right, let me just double check. Okay, I want to get the full screen. All right, so hopefully that's better. Thanks, Stacy. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. All right, so again, coming in through the SBA profile. So just as a refresher, you can come in, again, log in, existing entity, go through, select point of contact only under your whatever selection that we're going to start from, click next. You're going to land on the points of contact page, scroll to the bottom, save, continue. And then when you get on this page, you're going to click register, update SBA profile. And if all is working well, then you should get to another screen will pop up and this is what you'll see. You'll have that, not even, it goes right into the SBA profile. And it'll actually open up on the profile. I'll show you that screen there as well. If you click on this register update SBA profile, and you have a blank tab open that says about blank, there's a couple of different errors. The most obvious error is that the link is broken between SAM and SBA and it's not going to open. You can try it on a different browser. Occasionally it's just browser settings. And you can also double check, one, that your pop-up blocker is not on for the SAM site, and two, that your security setting isn't so high that it's blocking you from going from one site to another. So there's a couple of things that you can look at from your computer setting. Sometimes just trying another browser, see if it opens that way. But again, if you're actually opening a tab and it's showing about blank, it's either something's going on with your computer or that link is broken. And it's about a 50-50. There are some times that I can do several profiles in a row with people and go right to that SBA profile for them, and other times it's just I get that about blank. So when that happens and we're having issues between the SBA site and SAM site, that's where that second option of being able to log in to the general login system is helpful. So again, see here you can see sometimes, again, here's the screenshot where it says about blank. Here's sometimes you'll even have a note from the SAM system itself telling you the SBA supplement page is not available. So this is really nice when we actually get those errors, then we know SBA site is down, that link is broken. You might want to try again. But I recommend that while SBA has their general login system, it's great to be able to have multiple options to access your dynamic small business search. Because quite honestly, your SAM registration, you absolutely have to update once a year, but your dynamic small business search should be updated more frequently, especially if you have a new federal award. You absolutely want to get those awards posted on your dynamic small business page. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. So again, SAM errors trying to get into SBA's supplemental page. So accessing from the general login system, again, here's the link, and this is different. It does have a separate username password than anything else for SBA. You can create a new SBA GLS account. If you think you might have had one from back in the day, you can always click on that forgot user ID, do the forgot username, forgot password, and recover that information. Once you're logged in to the GLS, you get this lovely blank screen with absolutely nothing. You don't even have this #1 click on profile button. And so it's a little confusing. It's a pretty old site and it doesn't have a lot of directions. So the first thing is, once you are able to log into the general login system, and this green is from me, you're going to want to come up here where I have circled and you're going to click on the profile button. And you're going to add new business, yes. So if this box isn't already there, you want to click yes to add a new business, so this will extend, and you're going to enter your tax ID and your DUNS number, and you're going to go ahead and submit. So here, this is the only time in any federal site where you actually get to enter the dashes when you do your tax ID. So you're going to select what format and absolutely enter that and go ahead and submit. After you hit submit, it's going to put you back on your home page. You can see here we have the numbered steps, and after that, we're going to click access. What that does is this is going to open up all of the folders available for you to be able to request assistance. And you can see the HubZone application is still the remaining actual small business certification left on the general login system profile. So you're going to click on the folder in front of this ProNet Dynamic Small Business Search. You're going to check SBA supplemental pages, and then in your drop down, you're going to select your DUNS number. And if you just went directly to access and hadn't added it in your profile, then this just comes up blank. So if you've already done that previously and you open your profile and you can see that's already there. I have discovered for those of you that have multiple SAM registrations that you are responsible for, the dynamic small business search, and I'm sorry, let me back that up. This SBA general login system isn't set up to do multiple DUNS numbers. You can try, they might have improved it because we can go into profile and add new businesses and select, and you can try and see if they've corrected that and you can select. If you have difficulties doing that for the SBA supplemental page, then you might have to have a separate username password if you have multiple SAM registrations that you're trying to get through. Definitely if you're doing a HubZone application, you're going to want to separate those logins and have a login for each entity that you're doing a HubZone registration for. But the supplemental pages, you should be able to stack those and select your request. So once you've gone through, click the envelope, click the box, selected the DUNS number, and then click on submit. Once you click submit, you're going to get a little message that says your profile has been successfully updated. And this is an old screenshot. And it used to be you had to ask for the DSBS privilege search. Don't even mess with that. Just select for the SBA supplemental pages. Once you submit that, you're going to receive an email that says your profile, your request has been submitted. And then what you're waiting for is a second email that says your GLS security profile has been updated and you've been given user access for this SBA supplemental pages. It looks similar to, but I actually have the copy of the wrong old email. All right, so yes, once you submit it, it usually 24 to 48 hours, but you will get an email response from SBA stating that they have given you access. And when you log in, you will see that you now have on your dashboard this SBA supplemental pages. So make sure, since we're waiting for email response, that in your profile, so if you have an old account that you've revitalized, make sure that you have your correct and current email point of contact listed in the profile before you submit that request to receive access for the GLS. Okay, so once you have access to the SBA supplemental pages, it's just a matter of clicking on that link and voila, we're going to finally get to the website. Now, just a user tip from GLS, if you click on this SBA supplemental page and you get this internal error, which happens to me about every other time that I try to open this, all you have to do is go in and clear the cookies, clear that cache on your internet browser, go back into your GLS, click on this, and then you should be able to go through. For some reason, if you have too much backed up in that saved cache, then the system just has a hard time opening those SBA supplemental pages. And of course, if you're having any issue with your GLS at all, this is your tech support email right here, gls@sba.gov. All right, so that was a long 20-minute discussion of 3 different ways, 2 through SAM, 1 through the general login system, to actually get to here. Ta-da, the SBA profile. This is our ultimate goal. So it starts right here on the welcome page. The first few pages, they have the orientation help, which is a lot of text. So what I recommend is save yourself some reading time and go right here and click on the mandatory data. This brings you here. Now, I know this is an incredibly small screenshot. So the next few screens, I do have it broken down into segments to make it easier to see, but I did want to give you at least the screenshot so that you can see what it looked like in whole. Because once you click mandatory data, and you can see it's now yellow on that blue bar off to the left, this is where we're landed into the mandatory data home page. The first section that it has here is, do you wish to be displayed. So there's two spots that you need to check yes for people to be able to find you. First of all, in your SAM registration, you want to opt in to the SAM's public search. Now, granted, if you opt out of the SAM search, and that's what I've done with my own SAM profile, because I have it more so that I can get into the system, pull screenshots, and help clients. So I do actually have my search blocked. So if a contracting officer was looking for my profile, they would actually need to log into SAM with their government, their system ID, username, password, and then they can see all of those profiles that are blocked. A lot of people have talked to me and they say, well, I don't want to get a lot of junk mail, so I'm going to block it. Well, a lot of the contracting officers use the dynamic small business search, use SAM without any login. In fact, there is no login from the DSBS. So if you opt out of that SAM public search, you are missing out on that free marketing opportunity. Yes, sure, you're going to get a few random junk emails, and you can always tell that they're junk emails because at some point they're going to ask you to either call them or they're going to ask for a credit card. And there's quite a few new sets going through they're kind of gray area, whether they're a valid business or not. GSA does monitor these companies, and they are required in those emails to notify that they are not they are not associated with the federal agency, that they're a for-profit entity. So when we get back on target. So yes, you want to be displayed in the SAM public search, and yes, you want to be displayed in the dynamic small business search. If you opt out of your SAM search, you will not show up in the DSBS search. If your SAM profile is expired, you will not show up in the dynamic small business search. So if you have an active SAM registration and you are unable to find yourself in the dynamic small business search, then go ahead and reach out to PTAC and we can help you troubleshoot to see which error might be blocking you from showing up in that search. All right, so yes, please, everyone, show up in that dynamic small business search. You want to be found. The next section is your primary NAICS code. And as we were going through this, I have a lot of them blocked just so my personal information isn't visible. But anything that's in these gray boxes is all information that's exported from SAM into your SBA profile. So if you see I have the wrong NAICS code or I need to add NAICS code, you'll need to go back into SAM and add that information in SAM itself. So keywords. Ultimately, the purpose of taking the time to go into your dynamic small business search and add additional information that isn't provided by SAM, keywords is the first, if not the second most critical bit of information. Actually, all three are equally important. We're adding those keywords, we're adding that capability narrative, and we're adding those references. And those three things you have to do through this dynamic small business search portal, and it's not something that you can enter in SAM. So the keywords serve two different purposes. One, they make it easy for businesses or agencies to find you when they don't want to take the time to figure out which NAICS code is the most appropriate for the entity types, the businesses that they are looking for. And the easiest example is if we're doing construction, I can enter the word construction, or I can enter the 236220. But if I don't have that NAICS code at the top of my head and I don't want to look it up, it's easy to enter that keyword search. So if you, being a construction company, and you've entered that 236220 in your SAM profile, it's in your NAICS list, but you haven't added that keyword construction in your keywords list, and I am searching by keywords only, you are not going to be found. So just relying on the fact that, oh, I have NAICS codes, they can look me up by NAICS codes. A lot of people like using keywords, and so you're going to not be found. So we want to get as many keywords in there as possible. So they have up to 525 characters. They've extended it so you can have 50 characters each, so you can do 2-word combinations. and you're going to separate those by a comma, so kind of old-fashioned data entry term where the comma is the field and indicator. If you click into the blank screen off of the box, this is how you can quick do a check. It'll let you know if you have any errors, or if you're wondering if you've gone over your search character count, you can click off in the box. You click off to the side here, nothing happens, you're good, there's no errors. You can come back here and click. The most common area is to end with a comma, can't think of any keywords, and we go to move forward, and then it'll pop up. It's letting you know that you've entered a comma, so you've created a new search field. The second value of keywords is they really help define all of those NAICS codes that you have listed. Some of the NAICS codes, you can see based on my sample on the screen, are pretty self-explanatory. Landscaping services, okay, I understand that. But some of them are really very broad and vague, such as the other support services for construction industry or other support services. And a lot of those specialty might fall under that NAICS code that starts off with other. By entering keywords, again, one, we're making it easy to find for those that are searching using keywords and not NAICS codes. And two, in our individual profile, those keywords are populated right under that NAICS code list. And it really helps define what it all that we do. So if you think about it for us, all of us are really busy people. We all have a million things going through our mind that we need to do. And we have keywords, kind of funny thinking of it that way, but we have those keywords, those hot buttons kicking around in our subconscious, and having that listed. So if I'm looking specifically for someone for pesticide, sure, I may put that under landscaping services, or from the beginning, I might honestly just put the word pesticide in for a keyword search. Now, the way the keyword search functions, so here we have this two-word combination, grounds maintenance. If I just enter the word ground or grounds, it would find. So it does do partial. If I just put in the word snow and I have snow plowing in here as a keyword, then yes, it'll pull in that list. So you feel free to list out your keywords. So again, it makes it easy to find. And two, you're getting to communicate with anyone looking at your profile what it is that you all do and why you have that odd list of NAICS codes. Again, NAICS codes are how we numerically describe our scope of business. And for some of us, that scope isn't necessarily as clear as, look, I do landscaping. Even the engineering services, there's one NAICS code for the engineering. And then by being able to put in those keywords, we can really help define what it is that we do and offer. So the keywords are incredibly important to get those in there. Questions, anyone? Okay. So again, information pulled from SAM. You can see here, hopping down the pages, so you can hop back and forth if you need to come in here. So this is all the information from SAM in those gray boxes. Next, you're going to enter your other web presence. Oops, sorry about that. And you want to make sure that you pull the full URL in there so you have a working link. The idea is if they've gone to the effort to take a search and they've clicked on your business name and looking on that, are looking at your individual profile within the dynamic small business search, you want them to take that next logical conclusion is to look at your business on your website, because you want them to pick up a phone and call you. You want them to get that information and find out enough about you that they're going to pick up that phone and reach out to you. So absolutely make sure that you have a full URL to get to your website. All right, again, the next page, and I just kind of have a screenshot of each page, just showing the organizational org owner cert data from SAM and SBA. And you can see under the, registered in SAM, this legal structure, mine's sole proprietor, which just doesn't populate. An ownership, these are any of the socioeconomic categories that you've selected in SAM. They're being populated here. And these spots are all information that can only be entered by SBA. So the HubZone certified, 8A, need joint ventures, 8A information. And for those of you that are women-owned businesses and have submitted your application on the new beta.certified.sba.gov site, you will see that in the dynamic small business search, you will also see the WOSB and EDWOSB and yes and no. And it'll just say no. If you do have that and you have submitted an application, and if you keep an eye out on that dynamic small business search, eventually you'll have a third box pop up under that section that says pending. And if it says yes and pending, then that means your application is in final evaluation. So they're pending a decision. But until you actually submit that application, even if you are certified, the way I did here as a women-owned business, those 3 SBA submitted data doesn't show up until you actually do the application. It's kind of a weird, and I double checked that last night thinking, well, why isn't that there for everybody? But I think it's completely triggered by that beta.certify site by doing the application itself. All right, moving on. Owner, other certification, these are all optional sites, but again, you can list the owner, you can whatever display order. The one thing I'd like to call to are these non-federal government certifications, NFGC. It's only 20 characters. If you fill out the 2 and click save, it'll populate 2 more boxes. But these are things that are specific to your industry. And they do have some examples listed here, Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. Of course, you're going to have to abbreviate that because you only get 20 characters in here. So for those in construction, if you have certified for lead-based paint removal, asbestos removal, the basic things like some of your hazmat certificates that are expected for the industry, I don't know if they're as critical to list or not, but you really do want to list some of those certifications that are would give you that marketing advantage over your competitors. So absolutely list those here. And if you have to abbreviate like crazy to get the 20 characters in here, that's fine. There's another spot where I can show you where you can list out more information under the special equipment. So one thing, and this is right off the SAM site, it says you'll probably need to abbreviate, but maybe not. So they give example certify Alaska Native American. Some of the certifications, like this one, Native American or certified, honestly, I'm not too worried about that for non-federal government certification, but again, industry certifications really are critical. All right, so moving on, capability narrative. So this one, I still can't decide if it's more important or as important as keywords. But I guess with the keywords, if they're searching by keywords, you haven't entered any, you're not going to populate on that list. So at this point, it wouldn't matter if you have that capability or narrative or not. So let's talk capabilities narrative. When someone goes in and does a search and they have a returned information dump, they're going to see the columns, business name, a point of contact, maybe a phone number, and then this capability narrative. And so they get this long wall of text all the way through to scan to try to find those businesses that they are looking for. So with the capabilities narrative, I kind of like people to rethink it. We're not writing whole pretty sentences. We're not writing our history. We're not writing about us, that we're a family-owned business started back in the 1800s, generations of, we care about providing excellent service. That type of information you really want to have on your website. What we want in this capability narrative is something that's easy to scan, and we can, again, use some of those keywords, those really critical keywords, to help define who it is and what you do. So some of the things that I recommend, and there's really no right or wrong, but what we want is we want people to stop and read that information. So by starting off with a number, when we have a wall of text, it breaks that monotony as we're scanning through text, hey, a number. It's one of those things that tends to trick the eye to stop and pay attention. So here, by saying 15 plus years industry experience, and by using that word industry, I'm not just saying business experience, I'm saying that between the owner's expertise, maybe some of our key personnel, that we have this industry experience at hand providing. And from there, in-state remote services, this is great, especially if you're construction. Are you willing to travel? Again, you're just implying information, whether we readily pick that up or not, those readers. And we can just start doing a list. And of course, I was doing this kind of late at night, so I got a little snarky in my shoulder to cry on. But just in case, you know, frustrated with government contracting, PTAC is a good resource for what do I do next. But when you're listing that capability narrative, keep these things in mind. You get 350 characters to create that narrative. Use keywords to encourage the searcher to view your profile. So as I'm scanning down, I'm going to see something that's going to make me stop and actually click on your profile. You don't need to waste your 350 characters listing data that can be pre-filtered by search criteria. So if I start reading this, and I don't know if anybody is honest enough to say that, yes, when I do a search, I actually read word for word everybody's capability narrative all the way down through the list, then I will be honest, you guys have a lot more patience with it than I do. I tend to just quick scan. So we want, again, to have this broken in a manner that with a quick 15-second review, I am picking up who you are and what you do. So if you have a paragraph heavy text saying, we're an Alaska Native owned firm, headquarters with 20 subsidiaries providing anything that you need to, and you have this long generic, most likely because I didn't find practical information right off the top, I'm going to jump to the next list, the next business down. Now I realize that this sounds hypercritical of me, and I apologize if there's anyone here that works for an ANC that I'm using that and picking on, seems like I'm picking on that. But the socioeconomic factors, if they are the most important and the reason I'm searching, I'm going to pre-filter that from the beginning. So I don't necessarily need to stress that again in my capability narrative. The capability narrative is, again, what it is that you're offering. If I'm here looking, I am looking because I have a need to have a service. I need services done. I need to buy supplies. I'm looking for expertise. Those are the keywords that we want to take the time to fill into that capability narrative so that we can grab it in a quick scan, and hopefully whatever needs kicking around in the back of our brain pan, we're going to see in that capability narrative, and therefore we're going to stop, click on that profile, and now I'm looking at just your business, and I'm not looking at, what is it, the 25 per page list. So again, use your keywords to encourage the searcher to view. Don't list data that can be pre-filtered. Skip generalized company information, save it for your website. We have the link, have that information. One of the things that I've learned when you're building a website is you should always have an about us, a company history, because that relationship is person to person. But save that kind of data for your website where they can get that warm fuzzy of that individual connection. But from the dynamic small business search, what we're looking for is who are you, what do you do? Okay, sorry about that. I have my little soapbox moment every time I get on the capability narrative. Now the special equipment materials box next underneath, this is a free form text box. It doesn't have a character limitation that I know of, so you can take advantage. So we can market equipment materials that distinguish you from your competitors. If you're a paint company, don't list that you have ladders, paint equipment. You know, we want to assume that you have that basic equipment needed. But if you have specialty equipment that most painting companies wouldn't have, especially if you're doing exterior painting and you can do multi-story, great. Those type of things that distinguish you from your competitor. If you're a distributor, and you have multiple manufacturers, you sell stuff, this is a great way. List the distributors that you sell for. And again, don't list any basic equipment because it's like, well, yeah, I would hope so that you have that. Take advantage. And again, those non-federal government certifications that if you've had to abbreviate like crazy to fit in that 20-character text box, you can go ahead and put it back here in the special equipment, and especially if it's a certification that really sets you aside from your competitor, or if it's those certifications where it's 3 initials, you know, after your name, and you have CIS, MPA. Of course, I'm just making things up. You can go ahead and also list those different certifications there that somebody outside your industry, like a contracting officer, might not recognize in a signature block, but then when you can spell them out, you can list them there. All right, moving on. So I want to hop back for just a second and pull out to grab this screenshot. When I pulled this together, I just used a keyword search for food. I think I was hungry. It was late at night and it was time for a snack, so I just decided to use the keyword search for food. And it was really interesting, and I just have it broken out this just so I could fit it in for a screenshot. And obviously these are only the capability narrative. It doesn't have the other information in front of it, which kind of looks like this. So this is your normal standard response, but for this purpose, I just kind of cut and paste. So you can see here that I'm looking for food. Maybe I'm looking for a catering company, or I'm looking for remote camp, or, you know, someone that even just sells food. Because if you think about it, pre-COVID, there's not that many places where you could go in, order online, and have somebody deliver a box of food. And there were actual solicitations for some were research vessels showing up at a dock and needed someone to deliver their groceries to them. So, but for example, food. So if we're scanning through here and I'm thinking food, and these are companies that all showed up in my list, and yet somewhere, so I'm going to read this first one, this Mallard Bay, Duck Enterprises, Certified Small Disadvantaged ANC, specialized in federal government facility support services. So I had to kind of read a lot before I even figured out I don't need their name because it's there. So again, here's the screenshot here. I have Mallard Bay here, so why there? If you only get 350, get those characters that really give information. So these guys are kind of easy to pick on. So if anybody's here from Mallard Duck Bay, sorry about that. But they're saying where they're located, they're explaining what ANSCA is, and the only place that they've told me what they do is facility support services. Well, facility support services is a really big topic. How is that tied to food? Honestly, I don't know. So the next one says, not only does Commercial Kitchen Solutions have endless supply of products, but we provide kitchen layout, blah, blah, blah. So again, we could have probably cut that down just to make it a little easier. So we're reaching through here. I'm filtering through there. Oh, look, somebody actually has food services. Because if you can see the way my cursor's running through here, that's what my eyes do when I'm scanning through this list. So then I might take the time to go ahead and click on this company because they say food services. I'm looking for food. The next one, you can see it's scanned down here, HVAC repair, maintenance, janitorial, window cleaning. Honestly, I don't know why they have food as a keyword if it's not tied back here. Maybe something facility maintenance, don't know. So that's a little confusing. Most likely, I'm not going to click on their site. Maybe out of curiosity why they have food as a keyword and nothing listed. But again, what I'm trying to show you is tying those keywords back into, that capability narrative can make it really helpful for people as to why your information is listed. And of course, when you have the blank box here, then that means this individual has not created a capability narrative. If you're trying to figure out, well, what is a good capability narrative, the best thing to do is take your NAICS code, log in, do a search. I'm sorry, you don't even have to log in. Go to the site, just do a search based on some of the search criteria you would use for you to be found, and see what are your competitors doing. So again, here's that capabilities narrative in full, and you can see I was just pulling it out so I could give you examples of why it's critical. So if this is my screen I'm looking at and I had a response of 100 businesses, I am quite literally going to go through it about this quick. If I'm really desperately looking, maybe I'll take a little longer to try to read each one of these. But honestly, I will be honest, not very many people are actually going to take the time to read this word by word all the way through. So what we want to do is make this easy to scan and to pull the information up. Questions, anybody? All right, thank you. All right, let's move on. So bonding capacity, this is at the bottom of the screen for that capability narratives. If you're in construction industry, absolutely enter your aggregate and per contract for your bonding. Everything that we can enter here is something that I can pre-filter in the search criteria from that DSBS homepage. So if I am a prime contractor, I am looking for subs and I want to make sure those subs have bonding capacity, I can actually pre-filter that. So this is good information to enter. Percentage of business type, maybe you're split between construction service, new construction, of course, painting, but service, maybe you're just doing a remodel. These aren't as critical. These quality assurance, absolutely. If you have any of these QA certifications, you absolutely want to click on those and market those. Export profile, for most cases, it's just no, move on, unless you are selling outside of the country, then it's a great way to list that. And now references. So I've got about 10 minutes left, and references are really critical, and they are often not entered correctly, or we're not taking advantage of this marketing opportunity. So when you all are putting in bids, proposals, RFQ responses, and the contracting officer is collecting past performance data, there's a past performance component for your solicitation. Usually the solicitation that says the contracting officer can use multiple sources for past performance. So sure, you submit the questionnaires, but if they need more information, they can go look for past performance data on you. And the dynamic small business search is one of those very obvious but underutilized spaces where contracting officers can glean past performance. So when we're looking at this page and we're thinking reference, we don't want to slip into that thought of references as in providing character references like we would for a resume. If we're hiring for an individual position, then we'd have those references specific. These references are your company references, and these are going to be job specific. And the way I look at this is there are two different ways that you can enter references. Well, three ways. We can list a specific contract activity. And if we have federal contracts, we absolutely want to get that specific data per contract. But if a lot of your past performance, a lot of your references are commercial clients or even state government or local government, then we want to start rethinking. We're not necessarily going to list by each individual contract, but now we want to start listing these grouped either by longevity or scope. So let me talk about that. So this would be specific contracts. So, and I just went into FPDS and pulled up this contract information right off just so I had something to plug into here to give you guys an example. So the name would be the contracting entity. And if you note right off the screen, it says we have up to 80 characters. So we can come in here and in parentheses, add a little bit, well, what did we do? Because Department of Air Force or even JBER, Fort Wainwright, it's very broad and we might have done specific. So this is an opportunity to take advantage of that full 80 characters and to put what it was, the title of that activity, and again, Department of Air Force, let's go ahead and specify JBER Alaska. And because this was a federal contract, I want to list the contract number. This allows the contracting officers to talk to each other about specific contracts and pull up and see if there's any past performance, especially if this is a contract that's large enough for that dollar value that there'll be the CPARS information. So that gives them specific information that they can look up. So we're going to do our start date, and the easiest way to pull that is that date of the contract was executed. It's something that's verifiable right off the contract data. An end date, because again, specific contracts might have a time range. If not, if it's just a supply delivery, this end date isn't a mandatory field. If you have it, great. If it's a multi-year contract, you want to put that entire range in there. The value, and this would be your proposed contract amount for the full contract. And if you've completed the contract in full and you've actually had additional work added or modifications that increase that scope, that dollar value, then you do want to keep that accurate and update that. You can, again, enter dates that have not yet happened on this end date, so we can enter future dates. And in something like this where I'm giving a specific contract, the value of the contract is that proposed amount for which you were contracted, even if you have yet to receive that full amount because you haven't completed that scope of work. Contact name, you can list the contracting officer or the COR. It's good to always get their permission, make sure they don't mind. Of course, phone number, and then display order. This is for you to be able to sort how they pop up in that reference list. Oof, I'm running out of time. So let me talk about looking at references as longevity. So I am a very loyal client. I have my favorite businesses that I go to, and they're my first choice. I'll be honest, if I want Mexican food, it's either Taco Bell, which my daughter always tells me isn't Mexican food, or I'm going to go to Poncho's. And I'm going to go to them first over and over again. And if I have a bad meal, it's okay. I'm still a loyal client because I have a history. You know, they have proven themselves to me over and over again. So all of us have those go-to clients that are or clients that you are the ones that they call when they need those services. Those are those longevity, ongoing. And the way you can enter that is we're going to enter that company, and I just kind of made this name up, Anderson Property Management. And again, I've got those 80 characters, so I'm going to put down what is it that I do for them? Tenant improvement repairs. And in the contract, because it's not a federal agency, even if it's a state contract, we really don't care about those contract numbers unless they're federal, because again, this is kind of a federal site. You could rethink that if you're doing a lot of state contracts and it's state buyers, then maybe you want to put state contract numbers. But instead, I'm going to take advantage of those 20 characters, and I'm going to let them know that these are ongoing services or multiple projects or on-call maintenance. Everything over here in the little box are just examples. And then, because what I'm letting businesses know is they have liked me so much that they have been working with me since, and you're going to have to put that start date. And unfortunately, you do have to do month, day, year. When did you start working with this client? And if I have ongoing, I'm not going to have an end date, and I'm going to have a value to date. So these are your gross receipts to date. How much has this company paid you, Anderson? And of course, contact name and phone number. And again, always get permission. And make sure that you have a current name and phone number. If don't have one particular person, maybe that person that you've been working with is left, then at least get the main phone number for the entity. But what I'm doing here, without saying it, is I have been working with this client, and the higher this number, the more, and this is where you're going to want to say ongoing, multiple, on call, to let them know that it's not just one big project, but multiple projects over multiple years. So again, you are implying that they have liked you so much that they have been a steady client for a long period of time. And client loyalty really implies that you guys are a good company. The next way to tackle this is by scope. So scope to me means I am looking at your time and the dollar amount. So example here, and again, I'm taking advantage of that 80 characters, Alaska Airlines, this advertising marketing campaign 2020 for the Club 49 program, because again, I'm telling you information. I started it and stopped it. And so in this 7th month window, we did over $1 million. So what this is telling me that this program under a shorter time duration, so again, shorter time period, larger dollar amount, shows business capacity. It implies that you have that larger staff and that you're ready to tackle larger projects. Now, if I said I'd done $1 million over 12 years, well, maybe done a lot of work, maybe not. But by again, that's that difference between longevity and scope. When we're talking scope, I am being much more project specific as opposed to we do a lot of work for this client. So if you have a couple of different areas, say instead of Anderson Property Management, it might be Municipality of Anchorage, grounds maintenance, and you might have where you do cemetery maintenance, plus you do all of the facility maintenance, outside property maintenance, for example, then maybe you'll want to separate those into 2 different references because they might even have 2 different points of contacts. So you want to group this longevity in either by client or in the case of the municipality or police department or city of Kenai, those type of things where you might have different projects, then group those by topic longevity. Scope, again, we're kind of talking about one specific activity. We're implying that shorter time frame, and even a 1 year is still a shorter time frame and a larger amount because we're showing that we can do large projects. Questions, anybody? I'm kind of up against my time and I've been really pushing through this last thing. All right, so here's our contact information. And while I have the screen in front of you, I just want to recap. It's very critical to update that dynamic small business search. You do your SAM once a year. At a minimum, you should be going into that dynamic small business search and updating yearly. Because when you look at somebody's profile, the very first line of data when we're in an individual profile is it has last date updated. We want to get those keywords in there because 1, it makes it easy to find us, and 2, it really defines why we picked those NAICS codes that we did. 3, we want a good capability narrative that within a very fast scan, I have a good concept of what you guys are doing. Having a number in helps break that text monotony, and because we're breaking our eyes like, yep, letter, 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 whoa, number, we are going to by default stop and read it. It's a great trick. If you don't believe me, start skimming through your junk mail that you normally wouldn't take in, pay any attention to, and then what made you stop on a particular piece of junk mail to actually read something. And that is that type of marketing that we want to tag for busy people reading and trying to find something quickly. So capabilities narrative. And those references are incredibly, incredibly important. If you're taking the time to put in a good capability narrative, get those references in there. The last thing we want is to scroll through this. They're kind of getting excited about you. You've got the right keywords, you got the thing, you're starting to talk to them, and they come down here to references and there's nothing. Again, because this is a federal database, those references are set up to be geared towards federal contracting, but you can use your commercial contracts and your other governmental non-federal contracts. All of that is past performance, and you absolutely can list that in there. Those references, again, should be business references, not individual character references. Well, everyone, thank you. I've lost a few people, but thank you for the rest of you for hanging in to the end of this morning's webinar. I should have mentioned at the beginning, but this webinar is being recorded, and we will have this posted on the PTAC website at the end of the week. So if you want to walk through this again or scan through, don't forget to download the handouts And if you forgot or can't, feel free to email me after the fact and I'll be glad to send that to you. And if you have any questions specifically after the fact or would like some help working through and doing the SBA Dynamic Small Business Search profile, feel free to make an appointment with me or anyone within PTAC because we're here to help. So a few comments. Thanks, Janice. Thanks, Barbara. I appreciate it. And for the rest of you, have a fantastic day. Enjoy that snow melting away rapidly. And at this point in time, I am going to go ahead and close the webinar.